Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Coffin. Welcome to our 150th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We are holding in Parshas Noach, second Parsha in Genesis. A totally packed Parsha here. Speaks about whether Noach was so great or not, whether his generation or even the generation of Abraham. Speaks about the flood. Speaks about the Tower of Babel. A lot of things going on here. So Torah here says, chapter 11, right? I'm going to look at Genesis chapter 11. It says, the whole earth, verse 1, the whole earth was of one language and of a common purpose. Right? They were talking about the Tower of Babel, right? And making this tower to heaven. And they're going to fight against God, so to speak. Right? Because it says in verse 4, let us build a city and a tower with its top to the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed across the whole earth. So a little bit hard, a little bit hard to understand exactly what is going on over here. But one thing that we're going to see is what is this idea? What is this idea about one language? Right? They're going to speak one language, make this tower. It's going to go to heaven, and they're going to fight against God, so to speak. So Rashi explains, what is this one language? The one language is Lashon HaKodesh, right, which we normally translate as Hebrew, right? But Lashon HaKodesh and Hebrew are not the same, right? The holy language, certainly the language of the Bible, no question. So Rashi says, when they say we're going to make a tower, we're going to speak one language, it means Lashon HaKodesh. It means we're going to speak this language. Because then it says in verse 7, that God goes down and messes up the languages, so that one person can't understand the other. Good way to break up a rebellion. Right? People rebel, if they can't speak to each other, are they going to decide what to do? Right? How are they going to know what plan of action to take? So what happened? So from there there was a mixture of languages. God messed up all the languages. And we have 70 languages, right? The one language got put into 70 different languages. It got messed up. And then God dispersed them around the earth. Right? There's a question. Okay, if God changed the languages and messed them up, how'd they know what the language was? Right? How did they know what to speak? Right? One question that Mori Rebbe, Arav Agon Mushtar Moshlita, should be well asked in Chochmah Vedas. And then he continues and he says, I found in the Medrash. Right, what does the Medrash say? That God called out to the angels, and he said, go down. And each one would gather angels. They would go down to one family, and they would teach them how to speak a different language. Right, good way to mess things up. Have angels go to different families to speak different languages, so each family wouldn't understand another. That's what it says. Go down. Right, who's going down? The angels. God sends messengers, right? That's what these angels are. They are messengers. They go down in order that what? They speak to different families. They speak to them in different languages, teach them the languages, so each one can't speak to the other. Right? Each family won't be able to speak to the other. So we see before, Rabbi here points out chapter 2, verse 23. And Genesis, Rashi explains, the whole world was created in what language? What was it created from? Lashon HaKodesh. Holy tongue. Now, even if this language is a special language, it's a lofty language, so to speak. And that's the language that created the world. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, if it's such a lofty language, and a person uses it, speak Lashon Hara, God forbid, speak things that you're wasting time, or whatever, it's a tremendous sin, and it's a blemish on the language itself. So that means that if you're speaking in the holy tongue, and your speech is bad, you say things you shouldn't, you waste time using this language, it's pretty severe. It's a pretty severe sin. Even the angels only understand Lashon HaKodesh. And he says that there were Malchei Chabala, there were destructive angels that were in the desert, or not in the desert, but when they spoke things that were forbidden in the Hebrew tongue, right, in Lashon HaKodesh, they understood. Right? In other words, these angels of destruction, right, they certainly understood Lashon HaKodesh. By understanding it, if they hear people speaking terrible things, Lashon Hara, whatever, they're licking their chops. They're ready to destroy. So rabbis tell us, I don't know where he brings this from, doesn't bring a source here, right? But he says, we know that anyone who speaks Lashon HaKodesh, and they eat profane things in holiness, meaning that they eat something and they themselves keep themselves to the highest standard, even if they don't have to. They inherit Olam Haba. Right? It's a good way to get Olam Haba. To have a portion of the next world. So, person needs to speak Lashon HaKodesh. Right? That's one thing that's going to help him. But you see, he's on a higher level. Not just the language it helps, but being on a higher level also helps, and that's what's going to get him an Olam Haba. Right? One possible way. Now, the problem is, we said before, what happens if you don't speak properly? What happens if you speak against others? You blemish the language. Right? So people were accustomed to always speak in Aramaic. Right? That was the vernacular of the day. Right? That's what the Talmud's written in. That's what they understood. They understood Aramaic. Or they would speak in Yiddish. But they wouldn't speak in Lashon HaKodesh. Also, the Sephardic people also spoke Ladino. Right, the mixture of Spanish, Hebrew, I guess. Very Spanish. And they didn't speak Lashon HaKodesh. So not because, so why did they speak in Lashon HaKodesh? What was the problem? Right, not because they want to make fun of it, they want to degrade it, so to speak. Just the opposite. Because of its holiness, its purity, they didn't use it. Because they were afraid. They were definitely afraid if they use it, and God forbid they're not careful and they say things they shouldn't, then it's bad. Definitely bad. Also, Rabbi here points out, at the beginning, Sefer Torah wasn't written in the holy way of what we call Ksav Ashuris. Right? Ksav Ashuris is the writing that we have in Sefer Torah today. But they didn't do that at the beginning. Only until Ezra came and through prophecy told them to write it in that way. Now, what's the reason? Because obviously, if it's misused, and this is the holy tongue, could be severe payback. But the Ezra didn't say it himself. God spoke through him. God came to him and said, tell the Jewish people this. I want them to write a Sefer Torah in Ksav Ashuris. I want them to write in this language, in this way. And it's holy. But what's the fear? The fear is maybe it's not going to be used for the right thing. Maybe it's going to get abused in some way. Speaking of the language, I understand. If you use that language and you don't use it properly, and it's a holy language, fire. Right? Your mom is playing with fire. There were people, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says, right? Famous head of the Musar movement, started the Musar movement. And people were afraid to put on tefillin. Right? Men were afraid to put on tefillin. Why? Because of the holiness of tefillin. Right? You have to guard your body in order to wear them. But because of the holiness, people were afraid. Afraid if their mind wanders. Other things. So there were many people wouldn't wear tefillin. And Rabbi Yisrael Salanter went from community to community, chastising them. Okay, you have to make sure, your body's clean. You have to work on your thoughts, but our minds stray, true. The holiness of tefillin is awesome, no question. But you have to, work to the best of your ability. If you're going to say, wow, it's such a holy thing, how can I possibly wear them? It's too holy, no one's going to wear them. That's exactly what happened. People didn't want to wear it. Comes along with Israel Salanter, and he went from place to place chastising them. Saying, you're right, it's a holy thing, but okay. We're not perfect. God understands we're not perfect. Nonetheless, still have to wear them. Still have to pray in them. So my Rebbe then tells the story. Of Rabbi Chiel Weinberg. Zecher Tzadik Livrocha. May his name be blessed. He wrote the Sri Deish, right, known as the Sri Deish after his book. That he was in Meriband for Shabbos. And when he spoke in Torah with the Gera Rebbe, Rabbi Avram Mordechai, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, may his name be blessed. When he speak in Divrei Torah, in words of Torah with him, the Rebbe was specific, and he only spoke in Lashon Kodesh. Why? Because when he spoke on Shabbos, what did he speak about? Only words of Torah. So he's afraid to say anything that didn't have to do with Torah and Lashon HaKodesh. Right? Any trivial matter, secular thing, whatever it may be, for whatever reason. on Shabbos, he only spoke in Lashon HaKodesh. Then be careful. So not only that, but every time he spoke in Lashon HaKodesh, you had to be careful. You had to be extremely careful. Right, well, what does that mean? So he says that Lashon HaKodesh is not for every person. It's not for the Hamonam. Right? Not for the majority. Because when you speak it, you got to be very, very careful. Can't say things that are forbidden. I mean, other languages also, but you speak in a holier language is worse. So you see on Shabbos, he only spoke words of Torah in Lashon HaKodesh. Because otherwise, punishment could be severe. So then he asks, okay, that's by the Holy Tongue. We'll speak about that in a second. Go further into that in a second. But he says immediately after the flood, right, they were on Mount Ararat. After that, you got the Torah Flugga. You got the generation of the dispersed. And they were dispersed all over. Went to America, went to Australia, China, other places. They inhabited the world. They got dispersed. That's pretty miraculous if you think about it. Because why shouldn't people in that area stay in the same place? Interesting question. In other words, if they're in one place and there are tons of people living there, so I would say, why move? Where are you going to go? Why would you move? The Rebbe points out it's a tremendous miracle. First of all, you got people speaking different languages, good. So they're going to disperse because no one speaks their language. Can't be understood. That's miraculous. And that is the culmination of creation. Why? Or, right, the end of creation. Because essentially, what did God want? He didn't want them to be in one place. He wanted them to be dispersed. So how's he going to disperse them? How's he going to get them to move? Very simple. They won't speak the same language. They'll give their own language to others. They'll start their own places. And God will disperse them. Now, the thing is, you might say, well, the Torah doesn't tell me how this happened. It would seem after the floods, there was tremendous expansion. Right? Expansion of humans. They went from place to place, had children. More people in the population. But doesn't tell us how they got to where they were. So then my Rebbe says, think about it. If you're all speaking the same language, everyone's going to stay around the same area. You don't speak the same language, you're going to go other places. But if you're going to go to other places, who's there? How are you going to get there? What are you going to do? God's infinite wisdom, he says a tremendously deep thing when it comes to creation. And it's not something that we can fathom. Right, so let's make a graphic. You got 20,000 people, 30,000 people living in the same area. Right, give or take. They all speak the same language. So over a certain amount of time, people start speaking other languages. So what happens? They can't communicate. If they can't communicate, time to move on. Right, those put in their psyche. What are we going to do here? How are you going to make a living? Right, we just said in Parshas Noach that because of the sin of the snake, then man's going to have to make parnasa, make a living by the sweat of his brow. So think about living in a place where you don't speak the same language. Very hard. A person comes to Israel is one of the hardest things. Got to learn the language. Got to learn the mentality. You got to fit into society. Or figure out how to fit in society. But you're not going to stay an Anglo. You're not going to stay an English speaker. Doesn't mean you can't speak English. But if you want to be in society, you got to speak the language. You want to work for a company, you got to speak the language. English goes a far way, no question. A lot of opportunity for English speakers. In many ways. But nonetheless, you have to speak the language. If you don't speak the language, forget it. You won't make a living, it's game over. You won't stay here. So that's what they understood. They speak different languages, can't stay here anymore, can't communicate. How are you going to make a living if you can't communicate? But the irony is, if that's the case, right, what does the Torah tell us? Get a little bit deeper here. What does the Torah tell us? The Torah tells us it came to pass, verse 2, chapter 11. They migrated to the east, found a valley in the land of Shinar, settled there. They said, let us make bricks, burn them in fire, bricks serve them as stone, bitumen served as mortar, and they said, let's build a city, tower, etc. Let's make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed across the whole earth. So God comes down, looks at the city, sends his angels, messes them up. And he dispersed them all over the face of the earth, verse 8. And they stopped building the city. That's why it's called Babel. Because it was with there, God confused the language of the whole earth. From there, Hashem scattered them all over the face of the whole earth. That's only one problem. Torah does not tell us in any way, shape, or form how this happened. All of a sudden, people speaking the same language. Everything's going good. God doesn't like that, doesn't want it. Sends angels to mess them up. Scatter them over the face of the earth. So that's the $1 million question. My Rebbe says, Moses, what's going on here? There's no detail. Isn't that a pretty amazing thing? They're scattered all over the earth. North America, South America, Australia, China, Europe, Africa. They're already in Africa, but other places, Scandinavia, scattered all over the world. Not one detail. We could imagine. They must have had children, repopulated, but they went their own way. Doesn't tell us anything. So my Rebbe here says, this is an unbelievable miracle. And you see the depths of God's thoughts, God's ways that we have no idea. Good proof that the Torah must be divine. Because no human can write such a thing. Because you're lacking tremendous detail. Someone's going to ask, how did it happen? Do we have an explanation? No explanation. Food for thought. Well, one thing, I want to go back to Lashon HaKodesh. One of the big things the Zionists, when they came to Israel and they wanted to found a Jewish state, so they wanted to have a state of Jews. Obviously not, a state of Judaism, so to speak. As Herzl would have been happy with Uganda or Argentina. But he lucked out, he got Israel. Right, so we'll take Israel, but if we can't get it, we'll take these other places. But he wanted a place of Jews. Albania has the Albanians. English have the English. Italy has the Italians. Israel should be Jews. Should be Jews there, been persecuted all over. Let us have our own country. So how are we going to make it distinct? In a certain way, or not distinct, but we're going to be like everybody else. Everybody else has their own language. Right, the English speak English. The French speak French. In Portugal they speak Portuguese. Spanish, whatever. Right, in Brazil they speak Portuguese. So in Israel they should speak Hebrew. Now this, it's all Lashon HaKodesh. Right, it's certainly not the same. But Hebrew's the language we make blessings in. It's the language that we pray in. It's the language that we learn in. All books, commentaries on the Talmud, on the Torah, all written in Hebrew. All right, not to downgrade what Art Scroll does. And what a good translation of a lot of things. But essentially, what are the books written in the vernacular, in Hebrew? If you don't understand Hebrew, you're missing a lot. That's why we pray in Hebrew, so a person can go anywhere in the world, be able to pray. Doesn't matter if the service is a little bit different. But you have a place to pray, because you know what to say. It's all the same. If everyone prayed in their own language, anyone traveled there couldn't pray. So the language is crucial. But there's one very simple thing missing. The simple thing missing is, people speak the language and you use it every day. You go on the bus, go in the store, this, that, use it. But how is it used? How is it used? So I would venture to say it's not used so well. People speak slang. People curse. People speak Lashon Hara. People say all kinds of terrible things. It's a blemish for the language. The language wasn't intended to be used for that. If you're telling me it's a holy tongue, even more so. So I'm not saying if a person spoke in English, Finnish, French, that's any great shake, just speaking badly against others, whatever. But if you speak in the holy tongue, and you curse, and you say things, isn't that worse? Right? So, my Rebbe here points out, yeah, it's pretty bad. That's why a lot of people today, especially among the Hasidim, will speak Yiddish. They don't have any problem what they say. Should be careful with any language, don't get me wrong. But the fact you speak in that language, and you say what you want, you don't care, payback is tremendous. Because you're using something holy and misusing it, and abusing it. So better speak in a different language. Right? Yiddish also has its source. Yeah, you want to speak in English, speak in English. You have less to worry about if you say things that are wrong. But see, most people don't give this any thought. Right? But where did the Zionists make the mistake? They made the mistake saying we want a state of Jews. We won't even bring back the Hebrew language. That's beautiful. I mean, really it is. But what's it being used for? Is the language being used for mitzvahs? Blessings? Divrei Torah? Learning? Or God forbid if is it used for other things? So, the Zionists come along and say, we want to revive the Hebrew language. That should be spoken in the Holy Land. Makes sense. They have the right idea. Except they were missing one valid point. And this is the crucial point. Is that we're going to use that language, but it has nothing to do with Torah. Nothing to do with the prophets. Nothing to do with the commentators. Nothing to do with learning. Nothing to do with anything. We want to have our own language like everybody else. That's a mistake. One thing, you want to use it for the right thing. There's another thing, you want to use it like any other language. And when you don't use it for the right thing, and a person will speak Lashon Hara, God forbid, a person will curse, God forbid, in that language, God's going to say, I brought you back to the land for what? I brought you back to the land to keep my mitzvahs. I brought you back to the land so you can take Truma Meiser, so you can take tithes. I brought you back to the land so you could sanctify it. I didn't bring you back to the land to blemish it. There's a story where Moshe Schneider, the Rebbe's Rebbe, wanted to come to Israel, wanted to emigrate. They didn't want him. He was older. They said, we want younger people. We're going to build the land, not die in it. What they meant also is, we don't want your old religion. We're the new Israel. We're the new Jews. We want to build up the land. Or Moshe Schneider said, you're making a big mistake. I want to come and sanctify the land. And I want to come and do mitzvahs in the land. You want to uproot everything holy in the land. And that's why you don't want me there. That's why you don't want people like me there, because we're going to bring back Kedusha. Right? We're going to bring in the holiness. We're going to sanctify why the land should be sanctified. And do what God does, or wants us to do. Say better. So there are two extremes in the land of Israel. One is wanting to do the right thing. The other is to uproot everything else. To uproot Torah. So the fact that the land is going to tell me, it's a holy land, no question. We're going to revive the Hebrew language. So again, I would have thought not a bad thing. But if the language is holy, and if you're going to use it to say things that you shouldn't, then it's not going to be used for Torah and mitzvahs. I would think the payback could be severe. Because the Rebbe here points out that the blemish in using this language is extremely severe. So he sends his messengers, he sends his malachim, sends his angels to come and do what? Make sure people aren't going to speak it. To make sure they're going to be other nations, other languages, in order that they get dispersed all over. Because what seemingly could happen is God sees it, okay, God destroyed the world. God says he'll never destroy the world again. Fine. I don't think we're going to be whistling Dixie over here if they would continue to do that. So comes along God himself, and he takes a look at what's going on. And he says, this is bad. And I don't want this. So he stops it. But he stops it in an unbelievable way. He stops it how? He stops it by dispersing all the people. Sending them to different places and different languages. But the Torah doesn't tell us how that happened. So we'll have to imagine. We'll have to use our minds a little bit. Be a little bit mind expanding. But nothing short of miraculous. So yeah, the language is crucial. The language is important, but you can't abuse it. You have to use it for Torah and mitzvahs. You can't bring it back to the Holy Land and say we're going to use it for what we want. I mean, they did. So what did it get them? Bringing back the Hebrew language. Did it make more people religious? No. Did it draw them closer? No. They were a people without a Torah. Like a body without a soul. Yeah, they want to use their own language. Be like everybody else. Who says we're supposed to be like everybody else? Torah says we're an Am Segula. We're a cherished nation. Doesn't mean we're better. Cherished nation, chosen nation means we chose God, he chose us. There's responsibility. What we call in Hebrew achrayut or achrayus for yeshivas. Means we got to take responsibility. If you want to speak the language, you got to take responsibility. How to use it. You put on tefillin, you got to be careful. There's holiness. You sit in the sukkah. Obviously, you're not going to speak Lashon Hara outside the sukkah, all the more so. Sukkah's holy. Mind you, the Ananei Kavod. God's heavenly clouds that surrounded the Jewish people took care of all their needs in the desert. If the sukkah is such a holy thing, got to be careful. Can't bring in any, dirty pots. You got to be careful what you say. Certainly. So there are things within Judaism that have intrinsic holiness. By having intrinsic holiness means you got to be careful how you use them. Right? Tefillin, a talis, a lulav. Right? Not allowed just to throw the lulav in the garbage when you're done. Right? What do we use it for? We use it. We burn chametz. We throw it in with the chametz. Right? Erev Pesach. Why? To use one mitzvah for the sake of another. Use it to light up the ovens for the sake of making matzahs. But you got to show them respect. We're not going to use it now, even after the mitzvah's been done, and use it as a broom. That's disrespectful. Right? So holy objects, you got to be careful. All the more so, the holy language. In anything holy. So someone might say, really, does it matter? Is God going to fry us because, I used it in a disparaging way? Well, let's say a lulav, an esrog, tefillin, all the more so. Sefer Torah, all the more so. Would you disgrace a Sefer Torah? Right, someone would say, I'm not a believer. I don't hold by, whatever the Bible says. I do my own thing, whatever. Okay. I can prove that you definitely think that there's holiness. So yeah, how can you prove it? Let's go to synagogue. Okay. Walk in a synagogue, walk open to the ark, go to the ark. Pull away the paroiches, the covering. Open the ark. Okay. Now take out the Torah. Pick it up. Okay. Right, a little bit strange, like why you're doing this. And now take the Torah and spit on it and throw it on the ground. I'm not going to do that. Why not? Give you $1,000. Take the Torah, throw it on the ground, spit on it. Not going to do it. All right. Give you 5,000. No. 10,000. No. 1,000,000. No. Why not? You just said you don't believe in it. You don't hold of it. Disgrace it. Doesn't mean anything. It's just parchment. Right? It's just words. No, and do the moonwalk on it. Roll it out. Do the moonwalk. What's the problem? I wouldn't do it for any cost. Why? You don't believe in it. It doesn't mean anything. Oh. So it does mean something. So you don't really not believe in it. Okay, so now you get to a deeper issue why you don't want to keep it. But see, that has one of the highest levels of holiness to us. Prayer book. I had a family member once tell me years ago, he said, prayer book fell on the floor, I picked up and kissed it. Why? Could ask that question. Why? Because inherently they know, their conscience tells them it's something holy. You're not allowed to mess around with it. They do other things that go counter to what we say in our prayers, what the Bible says and all that. True. Those are just excuses. But inherently we know there's something there. And if there's something there, just like the Hebrew language, not allowed to abuse it. That is the point. So, I want to remind everyone that twice a week I do a question and answer session, usually. Tuesdays and Thursdays. 10 o'clock New York time, live on Facebook and Zoom. I also have class every Sunday 9 o'clock in the morning New York time, which is also Facebook and Zoom. It's on the book of Leviticus chapter 10. Every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock New York time, I have a class on duties of the heart. We're now in Shar B'tachon. I've been there for a while, speaking about proof of why Olam Haba, the next world, is not mentioned anywhere in the Torah or the prophets. It's only hinted at. I also have conversion classes twice a week, one on Sunday, one on Thursday. Or anyone interested in any of this, you can contact me on my Facebook page, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. Send me a text there. You can email me, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com. Wishing everyone a great Shabbos.